Hello, so in this video I'm going to be showing a bunch of Trappy tricks. So we'll start off with the basics of how to get started with them, and then I'll move on to some more advanced ones. So first off, so for traps you're using this kind of range of motion of your wrist, so kind of like you're waving but without moving your forearm. So then with the hand stick, so it would be like this. Would normally be either on the inside of your arm like this, so you're doing it kind of horizontally, or on the outside like this. And then you can see if you can place a flower stick in there and then trap it so that it stays there. And then same for the outside. You have to hold it in there, and then if you open it like that, it should fall out. So then for getting started with actually getting into them from doing flower stick tricks, so yeah, start with the TikTok and then open your pocket and then close it on. So I'm opening, flower stick goes onto my wrist, and then I close it. So you need to get like your accuracy of, so I guess the TikTok is flying through the air, and then I'm kind of moving my wrist to where the TikTok is going to land, so that it's landing on that part of my wrist, and then I can trap it shut. So that's the inside trap, because when I let it hang down, then it's on the inside of my arm. And then this would be the outside trap, where it's on the outside of my arm. And yeah, I'll discuss later the complexities of like defining inside and outside traps. But yeah, so for getting into the outside one, so if you do your flip-flop like this, then when it's on the outside, I'm again doing the same, so I'm in slow motion, so I hit it on the inside, it's going this way, I'm opening the pocket, the flower stick goes onto the outside part of my arm, and then I'm trapping onto it. So then you can get into a trap, like then how do you get out of it? So you could kind of swing it and then throw it back into your TikTok again. So it's kind of swing, open pocket, push, and then it goes back into your TikTok. And then for the outside one, you could, yeah, again it would probably be easiest to just swing to the inside. Alright, so let's play with this one. So the flower stick is making kind of a figure of 8, so like an inward figure of 8. So you'd say it's on an inside trap here, and then on this arm it's on an outside trap, kind of. Well, yeah, it's on the outside of my arm. And yeah, so to release it can be a bit awkward. Yeah, what I would say is when it's here, so your thumb, you want to think of like bringing it through this gap and like making a thumbs up. So from here, bring it through, and then that should release it. So then it swings round, and then my hand turns around this way, and then now it's this one's turn, so the thumb comes through the gap between your arms, and then this swings around, and now it's so my thumb goes from pointing down this way to turning down this way, so it's making like a full 360 degrees around. So then it can go in there. But yeah, if that doesn't help, just like bringing the thumb through, what you can also think of is that I'm rotating the stick and like bringing it past. is, you know, it's probably easier to bring this end across, because you want to go like across the stick. If you just turn it horizontal and then try and move across, it's going to be a bit more awkward than if you're kind of flipping it this way, then that's more naturally going past it. And you can also kind of like move your hand with it and like swing in the direction of the thing, but where your hand is moving faster than the flower stick. But I would say it's easiest probably to just roll the stick like that, and then it's naturally going to fall out, rather than having to try and like race out the way of the flower stick. Then that's a little bit rushed, you know. There we have this one. So this is an example of a trap where I'm not doing a throw. It's just, yeah, being held the whole time, basically, in a trap. And it's, you know, kind of momentarily within two traps at once as you're transitioning it over. And then, yeah, so you can do the reverse of that, so outward figure of 8. So there, I guess I'm like this, and yeah, so I release this hand, and I would say in order to like get the leverage to have the flower stick spin around the outside, you know, because it's stationary, I would say it helps to rotate this trap so that it's more horizontal, and that way you have the leverage to flick it out this way. Because if it's like this, you know, if I try and, because yeah, that comes from twisting my arm, but if I don't have it locked in place, if I'm like this and I turn my arm, you know, my arm is just going to slip past. It's not going to bring the flower stick with it. So yeah, just remember to like bring this pinky end a bit more towards you, so that way you have the leverage to bring it around. And yeah, obviously, you know, you have to also release this trap, so this has to go kind of vertical to allow it to slip out of that trap, because otherwise it's gonna, you know, be locked there. Okay, and then we can do one where it keeps on going in the same direction. So yeah, I guess it's kind of similar, but you know, so it's similar to this one at that point, but instead of catching here on this pinky side, I'm instead turning both my arms inwards, so it's pinkies up here, so both my pinkies up, and then as it swings out, I'm catching on the top of my arms here. So it's like thumbs pointing down, and then thumbs are kind of out to the side. And you know, again, you can do that both directions. Okay. And yeah, in terms of the variables, they're essentially the same as the bell spin tricks that I explored in my previous videos. So you can have bell spins which transfer between your arms or stay on the same arm. And you can have ones that reverse direction or stay going in the same direction. And then when we do ones with throws involved, then you can vary the amounts of spin. So yeah, next let's do some traps that are staying on the same arm. So we can do this one. So there I have it in an inside trap. I'm swinging like this, and then releasing it so it does a half spin, and then I catch the other end. And yeah, you can do it like where it's kind of landing vertically, so then it will just be fairly stationary when you catch it. if you're just starting out, then obviously it'll take a while to get comfortable with, but once you're confident with it, then you can have it try and land in more of a horizontal position, and what that will do is allow you to use the momentum of the pendulum to keep it flowing into the next swing. So then I'm doing continuous throws. Basically, if I did it with it landing vertical, then it would be, you know, a bit less flowy. It's a bit more, yeah, stop start kind of a thing. And then, yeah, so we could get into doing rolls. So yeah, this is a outside trap here, and then I'm rolling over my arm, yes, and then catching on the inside, and then you can do the reverse of that, so I'm swinging it. So it goes over my arm, so I'm twisting my, from the inside trap, so I'm twisting my arm inwards, this release here, it rolls over, and then my arm spins like the opposite direction that the stick is rolling, which can make it a bit confusing. And then there's another version that River showed me where it stays in contact with the stick, which is like that. So it starts rolling over, and then like that. So then it's no longer an arm roll, it's kind of doing a roll over the pinky end of the stick out in front of you. And then, yeah, now I'll show thumb side traps. So with the pinky side ones, so you're, trapping it actually against your arm, but your thumb side doesn't have the range of motion to do that, unless you're, got crazy flexibility. So you can only you see my thumb side can only come into kind of a right angle, but we can still do a trap with it like this. So I'm using, the bottom of my forearm and the top of the stick, and the center of mass is like on the inside, so it's kind of past the stick. If I have it too far this way, then it's going to do that and fall off. So if we're in an inside trap, we can roll like this and go into a thumb side trap rather than another pinky trap. And when you can do is to throw like this to another thumb side trap. So it's kind of an anti-spin throw. And then it's fairly tricky, but there is also an outside thumb trap here. So I'm in my inside thumb trap, rolling over my arm, and then flipping my hand over, so I'm palm up out here. And yeah, you see now the 2 points of contact are like below my arm here, and then on the stick there. And again, the centre of mass now needs to be, well yeah, now the centre of mass needs to be on the outside to keep it locked in, whereas here it had to be on the inside. That's getting a bit fancy, but yeah, you could make that a throw rather than a roll. So I'm adding an extra spin, like an extra half turn, to throw between those thumb trap positions. And you could probably throw between outside thrown traps. And then that's similar to the roll, but now we're doing it as a throw. So I'm going from my inside trap here, throwing and then catching here, an outside trap. So it's still like switching which end you're catching, but yeah, it's just giving it a little bit of extra power so that it's no longer staying in contact with your arm. And then, so yeah, we were doing ones that change direction on the same arm. So now let's do ones that stay going in the same direction on the same arm. So you can do this, which is basically like a no beat throw in poi. Probably fairly tricky for beginners. I'm getting reasonably advanced now. But yeah, so I'm swinging, taking the trap away, having it float through the air, and then re-trapping here. So you need to be really comfortable with those traps in order to be able to do it so quickly and repeat. And as with anything, there's two directions to that, spinning inwards and then flip there and go for the outward one. Yeah, so then I'll show an example of adding an extra half spin to it. So we're doing the same move, except yeah, so here is the same move except we're adding an extra half spin to it. And then next I'll show the same kind of moves but switching between arms. So from this inward no beat, it's fairly logical that you could throw that across to your other arm. Just caught it in the wrong trap there, but yeah, so you want to catch it on the outside trap there. And then you could, you know, if you're good at it on your bad arm, then you could continue doing no beats there. And yeah, you can do kind of anti-spin throw like that. So you know, it depends on the direction that it's spinning, you know. So if it's here is like a kind of extension kind of throw because it's travelling in the same direction that the stick is spinning, whereas when I'm passing it back again, you know, if it's still spinning in the same direction, then now it's kind of an anti-spin throw like that because it's spinning around this way, but then it's moving this way, which makes it create kind of an anti-spin shape in the air. Whereas this way it's more like a linear extension. And next we can explore some ways that you can incorporate it moving around your body. So if we do this trap, so it's an outside trap, it's penduluming out to the side and then coming in here to be horizontal to be grabbed by the other stick, and then release here, swing out to the side. So then when you've got that comfortable, you can go under the leg in the same way, and you can choose if you want to do the native or the non-native leg. It doesn't really make much difference. And then you can go for it behind the back. A bit tricky, but yeah, I'll show it the other way. It seems to often be that when it's out to the side in that moment of weightlessness, that then the trap kind of like moves around a bit and kind of messes up. I think that's the point to pay attention to if you're working on that trick, that it still stays in the trap properly. And then if we take this, so it's like the top half of this move we were doing earlier, so then we can try putting that over our head like that. It's quite an awkward one, but it is a thing you can do. And then I'll show one where it's turning around with it going behind my back. So from an inside trap, rolling here into an outside trap, and then continuing that momentum. So as it pendulums, I turn my body, I grab here onto the other side, and then pendulum and turn as it's penduluming. And then, yeah, that's the end of it, but you can usually grab and go into a roll or something like that. So in an inside trap, roll to an outside trap, turn as it's penduluming, grab on the other side, pendulum again, and then roll off on that stick. Okay, so this transfer that I showed earlier, so we can take that and have the transfer happen when it's vertical rather than horizontal, which would make it look like this. And we can do that in the other direction also. And then we can take it and add isolation, and then have it climb up and down like that. There's this one where you can drop it out of one trap and into another. And you can try come up with some weird positions to drop it in, of it being around your head or like behind your back or something. try to reverse that previous one, so you're throwing it from the bottom to the top, which is a bit more difficult. And ideally, you would be trying to move your bottom arm, just do a tiny throw with it moving as little as possible, so that then there's the illusion that it's just magically floating from the bottom to the top. But it's difficult to do. And then you can also throw it across like this with it just being stuck to it. Probably behind the head version. Oh, I caught it. Not quite in the middle, but yeah. Okay, and so there's this flip-flop one, so you can do that across the other stick as well. So if I throw from the, so I can throw from the outside to the outside like this. And I suppose you can throw from the outside to the inside as well. And then you can go inside to inside. Inside to outside if you're going a bit more over the top. But yeah, so with those, so if we take this move and we make it a throw, then that's basically the same as doing your throws from your flip-flop trap throws. So then I'm going outside to inside trap repeatedly. And then if you go in the other direction like this, but then make it a throw, then yeah, it's quite an interesting how you're kind of catching it in an outside trap up here, but it's kind of like on top of your arm. And yeah, you can kind of swing it and then like push this end up. Yeah, otherwise you could also like catch it in the trap and then use the leverage to make it go round, or you can kind of give it a bit of a push before as you're catching it in the trap kind of thing. But yeah, it's not a position I'd normally catch in, so it's interesting what are the moves they'd be using that kind of trap position. And so if we take these flip-flop throws, we can add extra spins to those. Basically add extra spins to any throw. Right, and then there's these arm lock traps. So from the inside trap, so I'm kind of, I'm spinning it inwards like this, but then from here I keep on going. This end goes into my armpit, so it's sticking out the back. And from here, you can have it slide down like that. It helps if there's, your flow stick's not too grippy, or you don't have too many bulky clothes on like me. Yeah, so this version, inside trap, swinging into the middle, and then it keeps on going into your armpit, and then you can slide it down. And then for the outside, it's a bit simpler, but you're just swinging it up like this and then holding it, so then it's just on the on the front of your shoulder, so it's less kind of locked in place, but again you can slide that down. Outside trap, swing it up, And then you can make a looping pattern with those two, if you like. So, so inside trap, come to this one, slide down. So now we're on our outside trap, so then we can do this one, slide down, and then yeah, we're repeating over and over. So it's kind of a 4-step pattern. Another interesting thing to explore is the range of motion whilst it's in a trap. So you can have it in a trap and kind of swing it around like a poi, like that. You know, you can potentially even do like flowers and stuff, I guess, with it in that position. But yeah, so yeah, so you can do extensions and yeah, flowers you could have a go at, and yeah, big pendulums. I feel like can be quite effective. You do turning pendulums. Because even though it doesn't take that much skill to do, I think to an audience it would look very visually effective because of how much space it takes up. A lot of flower stick can be quite a small space, so those big moves that take up more space can be pretty cool to add contrast of taking up more of the space. And to go from, you know, a pendulum is kind of barely spinning, whereas, you know, like a propeller or whatever is like really fast spin, so then you also have the contrast between the slow motion and then the fast spinning. And then yeah, next we have holding it in the center. So this is like a charge from pen spinning. So we're doing like a 1-beat weave with it in that position. And yeah, it can be a bit awkward. I'm not the best at it, but one thing to be aware of is that if you try to do it up quite high, then there's the risk that it's going to slip out the bottom. So I think generally you would want to have the trap like horizontal or even lower, so then the trap part is pointing up. But you know, as long as you can get it to work, then you can do whatever you like. And then you can also go for a 2-beat weave like this, with it still being in a trap. And then maybe 3-beat is possible too. Might be 3-beat. And then yeah, I guess you can explore floor plane spins too, like this, and then your charge in the center, and maybe like a floor plane 2-beat. Oh yeah, that's nice. So another one you can try is around the neck. So we're going from an outside trap. So yeah, there's this move, so I'm going from an outside trap, rolling across my neck, and then attempting to catch back into a trap again. Similarly to bell spins, traps are quite good for entering contact rolls because you generally trap them near the end, which means that, you know, you can place the center point where you want it to be, because usually for a roll you would want the center point to be on wherever the stick is rolling. So I guess like a basic example would be you can have a trap, place the center point roughly on the top of your arm, and it can roll over your arm, and you can grab it again. Another thing to play with which is hard to show on video, but you can turn 180 as you're doing a trap throw. So then I throw it in like a no beat and then catch it. So here I'll be catching back onto the same arm, but you know, you could catch with the other arm as well. Like that. I'm sure there's probably many turning throws that could be explored. I'll show one which switches arm now. Okay, so I've shown passes under the leg, but if you want to throw under the leg, so what I would say is your inside trap gives you leverage in order for you to spin it inward easily. You can't spin outward very easily. You'd have to like use a pendulum, you know, it's like a bit awkward. And for your outside trap, it's the opposite. You can have leverage for spinning outward, so that's pretty logical. Inside trap lets you spin inwards, outside trap lets you spin outward. So then, what does that mean? So it means that if I'm doing a throw under my leg from the outside, then it's easy to do it from an outside trap, because then I can have this outward leverage here. If I have it in an inside trap and I try to do that, then I have to rely on the swing, and that makes it a lot harder. And also your inside thumb trap is also a good way to throw under your leg from the outside. But if you want to throw from the inside to the outside, then that's when your inside trap is good, because then you have that leverage to make it spin under your leg like that very quickly and easily. And you could use the same kind of concept if you want to throw behind your back, so it could be an outside trap here, and then there I can get a throw behind my back. Let's see if that would work from a... Oh yeah, that works. Nice. And then, seems kind of awkward, but you potentially cross in front. Yeah, that's very hard, but you could maybe do a trap through from there in theory. Okay, in terms of entering traps from different moves, so I showed TikTok and flip-flop entries. So now I'll show from a propeller. So this would be outward propeller to inside trap, that's pretty natural. And then inward propeller to outside trap. Hopefully that's fairly straightforward for people to understand. But what's also possible is to do an outward propeller and catch it in an outside trap rather than an inside trap. And similarly, you can do an inward propeller and catch it in an inside trap rather than an outside trap. And that way you can kind of keep the momentum going as you catch it rather than it being one that changes direction. So if I'm doing an inward propeller and I catch in an inside trap, then I can conserve that momentum, so then I could use that to go into a roll or something, or throw out of it again. So from a fishtail, similar to your propeller trap, so I could trap here, so then it's, you know, quite similar to this propeller one that I was showing earlier, but you're just kind of doing it in wheel plane. But it, you know, you can turn towards it as you're catching it. And yeah, you can, it seems more natural to catch it when it's on the outside, but you can also trap it when it's in kind of the center of your body in this sort of buzzsaw position. And again, the same logic would apply that you can do those, you know, traps where it changes direction, or ones where it continues travelling in the same direction. If you kind of catch it in such a way that you're, you know, that you're conserving the momentum instead of just having it go static. So this first one was catch in an inside trap. So the second one is catching in an outside trap. Okay, and then playing with going from helicopter into traps. So the most natural one would be to an inside trap like that. So from my helicopter, you know, hitting on my left stick and then catching with my right. But you can also go like that, so it's kind of like a claw catch. So I'm hitting from my left stick, and then as it comes round, I'm hooking over the top like this to catch on the outside. And then another thing you can play with is catching with the stick that you've just hit it with. So there I'm doing the hooking thing, but I'm hitting with my right, and then as it comes around, catching, hooking over like this. But you see my arm is across my body. So the previous one I was hooking it here on the native side, whereas now I'm on the non-native side. And then I guess the fourth one would be kind of coming from underneath here on the non-native side. Let's see if I can manage that. So yeah, that does work. So hitting with the right stick and then coming across to catch it in this kind of position. And then, yeah, you could also do from a helicopter throw into a trap. So a conveyor belt is a good demonstration of how you can enter contact rolls from a trap. So yeah, you probably need to already know it, but yes, it's in an outside trap. It's hooking around onto my elbow like this. Yeah, that's you know, a contact staff move being applied to flower stick. So yeah, for entering your conveyor belt, so you'd have it in an outside trap. It might help to give it a bit of a swing first, and then yeah, you're kind of placing it such that the center point is kind of like on the top of your arm as it's rolling. And then you could also catch with a trap at the end if you like. And then there's leg rolls. So I'm going from an outside trap, and then going from the outside of my leg, rolling over and back into a trap. Seems a bit more difficult to do from the inside, but kind of possible. So if we take this move where it's like spinning in the same direction, and we plane bend it so it's in horizontal instead, like floor plane, then you end up with this move. And then another thing you can play with with that is adding kind of a bounce, so you're reversing it rather than continuing to go round and round. And then continuing in the theme of floor plane stuff, so we can take this where we're going from one trap to another using a roll and try doing that but horizontally. And so you can do them with your arm up high, but then you can also do it with your arm down low like this, these floor plane arm rolls. It's important to get a bit of lift as you're doing the floor plane roll. You can even do it kind of like a throw, because it's going to be a lot more difficult without that lift, because it's, gravity is likely to pull it down. Okay, and so I said at the start of the video that this is an inside trap and this is an outside trap, but is this still an inside trap, or would it be an outside trap? Because it's semantics, it's arbitrary, like how you choose to define it. But I don't know if exists a consensus already about the terminology. Because I would say probably that this is still an inside trap, because if you let it hang down, then it's on the inside. But then if you're trapping it in the center, then it becomes confusing. Is this an inside or an outside trap, or what? And you could define it so that it's based on whether the stick is actually, how your arm is twisted. So here it's on the inside, so it's an inside trap, and then this is an inside trap, and this is an inside trap. But then, what happens if it's like horizontal? Is that an inside or an outside? It's like in between. So I don't know. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear if anyone has some kind of consensus on the terminology about, and whether there's a logic of like what the most sensible way is to define inside versus outside trap, and whether there's any extra additional terms. I guess you call this like a middle trap or something, center trap, something like that. Often though, people would just teach each other tricks by showing them the actual trick, kind of learning visually, rather than that sometimes the terminology isn't particularly necessary. So there's this move. So it's kind of like a TikTok where you're isolating the bottom, or you could think of it as an upside down pendulum, maybe, or like the top half of a no beat throw that keeps on reversing. So I'm catching it on the inside of my arm, but you could say it's technically an outside trap if I drop it down like that. But then I say what's even more interesting is that you can do it on the same arm, like this. So I'm kind of giving it momentum here, and then taking the out of the trap and then hooking around this side and then back the other way, something like that. So you have to be pretty confident with your traps to be able to go back and forth so quickly. Because you might have thought that in order to go between those traps you would have to do a throw like that, but actually you can just go straight from here to here. And if you do it kind of across like this, then it would be kind of an anti-spin throw similar to when you're using a thumb trap instead. And I guess there'd be a version on the outside, wouldn't there? Something like this. Yeah, if it's on the outside on both sides, then I have to try and move my body a lot so that in order for the stick to stay relatively still, then I have to like lean side to side an awful lot. So that's like on the outside here and then on the outside here. Something I was playing with, which I'm not particularly good at yet, but you can try to do like float throws like that. You know, you could call them flats if you're into juggling. But yeah, this concept of trying to have it be flat in the air, horizontal. And then I was playing with, so there's this move where you're dropping it out of one trap into the other, you know, which is more kind of similar to these drops. But then you can play with doing like a pendulum floaty thing and switching the traps, so like so they're fairly tricky, but yeah, I'd say this one's probably easiest. So I've got it in an outside trap where I would swing to the outside and then try to hook it on top, and then as it comes to this side I'm on the bottom again, so hooking on top and then hook on top, you know, so you're doing that on repeat. It's like swinging in a pendulum and then taking it from the bottom and kind of claw catching it on the top. But then you can attempt the opposite as well, so you'll be swinging with it on top and then you're trying to hook underneath. So let's see if I can actually get that. The neck wrap I showed earlier, I thought, you know, you could also do that in floor plane. Something like that. Now this insight I had, I'm very excited by. So I've got it in an outside trap, I can slide it here, so I'm on the opposite end of the stick, you know, which isn't that exciting, but then I realised I can also do this, so I'm kind of pointing my elbow outward and the stick is sort of pointing to the inside again, and then I can slide a second time, which resets me to my original position, so then I can just do continuous slides over and over. So then you're basically doing slide throws from poi but with a flower stick. And yeah, then you could try the same, but sliding inward. I think there'd be a lot of potential if you get good at double flower stick, then you could do that with both potentially. And next up is, so I'm doing like a figure of 8. You know, you could just do an easy one like that, but you know, this is a bit harder. So as it's doing kind of a no beat across to the other side, I'm trapping. So I'm here, and then I'm coming around here, and then again trap this side. Okay, and if we take this pattern from earlier, we can add to it this kind of a figure of 8. So I'm just, you know, keeping it held in a trap, swinging around like that, you know, which isn't too difficult, but you know, you want to try and get the hang of it not falling out of the trap as you're doing that. But yeah, then it's essentially, you know, figure of 8, and so you come back, transfer, figure of 8, transfer. And then another under the leg one you can do is, so using this thing, penduluming out to the sides, you can lift your leg like this and do it. So it's under your leg, but your leg is pointing out to the back like an arabesque kind of thing. And I wanted to talk about the difference between traps and bell spins, because a lot of these tricks are kind of inspired by, you know, the bell spin videos that I've done previously. A lot of because they're quite similar concepts. Because both of them, you know, your bell spins, you always, you know, have your stick on the ends. Traps, most of the time you have it on the ends, although you can trap in the middle as well. But yeah, I would say in general, traps are easier. You know, bell spins are harder, but I would say bell spins are also more versatile. So I would say in general, you want to kind of start with traps, and then when you get good at those and you want a challenge, then kind of, you know, move on to bell spins. Yeah, so why are bell spins more versatile then? So one reason is that they have extra reach. So say I want to do something like this. Oops. So I can do a bell spin under my leg, you know, and like catch the other end or whatever I want to do there. Because it's, you know, on the hand stick. Whereas if I want to do that in a trap, because it has to be on my wrist, you know, it has to be like a lot closer, so I don't have as much reach. So then trying to do a trap there, you know, is like technically possible, but it's very awkward. And the same goes, like if I wanted to do behind the back, you can do a bell spin there, but trying to do traps there is like practically impossible because you just don't have that reach. And then also, you know, like kind of pendulum stuff like this with bell spins is very challenging, whereas, you know, doing that in a trap is just like too easy almost, you know, it's like doesn't really take any skill, so then there doesn't seem like much point in doing it. You know, it might still be visually effective to include pendulums like that, you know, for a performance. It might look good to an audience, but it doesn't take that much skill, so there's not, you know, as much excitement in terms of like mastering something that's, you know, really challenging and difficult. but yeah, I would say generally when it's in a trap, it's pretty secure there. It's mainly gonna fall out when you're transitioning between traps, trying to do some kind of throw or roll, is when you're most likely to mess up. Whereas for bell spins, the bell spin itself, you know, they tend to be quite unreliable. You know, it takes like a lot of work just to get your basic bell spin reliable, you know, and doing like, you know, both directions, both hands, and that I'm still not, you know, that great at just the basic bell spin. You know, it can be very easy for it to slip off, so